Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made, and truly we are grateful for just another day that the Lord has given us. Could have been dead, should have been dead, but God has looked beyond all of our fault and allowed us one more opportunity to gather in His name. And for that, truly we are grateful. Grateful to be among the land of the living. Uh, Very briefly, I want to share with uh, you all um, my thoughts for the morning. Um, Something that a former clinical director of mine said, Pastor Antoine Butler, he was born for it. Um, that's the thought that resonated with me this week and arrested my attention, along with something that God said to us through the prophet Jeremiah. It said in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nation. It's good to be able to stop and to look and ponder and think about the goodness of God and the things that He has done, but even more so to think about how well He knew us, how well He loves us, and how He planned our life out, how He is intimate with us. He tells Jeremiah, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. In other words, what he said to Jeremiah, before your mother and father even thought about coming together, I already knew thee. This word that he used, knew, is a word that means to be intimately acquainted. The interesting thing is that when we look at it and we think about it, God said, Jeremiah, I knew thee before you ever existed. Now, how is it that we can know somebody before they ever exist? Here is God saying to Jeremiah, who before his mother and father even thought about coming together, I already knew thee. Before he was conceived in his mother's womb, I already knew thee. I already intimately knew thee before you even came into existence. That's the powerful statement that God makes to Jeremiah. And he made that same statement to all of us. Before we were born, before we were conceived, before we took the 9 month journey in our mother's womb, God said, I already knew the intimate details of your life. I already knew and had my plans for you. That's why he also tells us that I know the plans I have for thee. That God knows us so well that before we were conceived, he already knew what he wanted of us. He already had a destiny in mind for us. He already had a purpose for us. And so that tells us that when we're born, that God already has something in mind for us. Nobody here was born just to be here, but we all had a purpose in mind. The journey that we take to fulfill our purpose is not always an easy journey, but God gives us what we can handle. And so sometimes in life we get discouraged, we get frustrated, we get discombobulated simply because we don't understand what God is doing, but God is always working behind the scenes. You were born for this. Whatever you go through in life, whatever you have to overcome, whatever you encounter, God birthed you just for this. He would never give you anything that you can't handle. I don't care how much it feels like you cannot handle it. God always gives us what we can handle. There's a cliche said He would never put more on you than you can bear. I've come to find out that that's a lie. God always puts on us more than we can bear. But I also heard the old people say that he's a burden bearer and a heavy load sharer. That whatever he knows that he places on us that we cannot bear, all he's doing is waiting for us to say, God, I give it to you because I can't bear it. And he helps us to bear that load. He tells Jeremiah, I knew thee before you were even in your mother's womb. Before you was there, I already knew you. I already had an intimate relationship with you before you was even conceived. Therefore, whatever happened in our life, God already knew it, and He already equipped us from the womb to be able to handle what life brings. Some things happen in life that really, really broke us down. And it was meant to break us down, because sometimes the only way we can get to where we're going is God has to break us just to remake us. Jeremiah, he tells, I knew thee. I already had a purpose in mind. Paul also, I believe it is Paul that says he was made a preacher. Just because he has the destiny and just because he has the purpose does not mean that he has to make us and mold us and shape us to be able to fulfill our destiny. Sometimes the reason why things does not work out is because we're running after things premature. Jeremiah is not born premature. He's born right on time. And so there's no birth complication when he's born. And when we run off with things, there's complication because we'll jump into things premature. So he said, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. The word sanctified simply means that he set us apart. I said the other day that you have to be separated for elevation. And too many times we can't go up because we're still holding on to things that keeps us at ground level. Anything that God has for us, we have to learn how to separate ourselves that we might be able to get to where God wants us to go. That means there are some people that you have to be separated from. There are some things that you have to be separated from. He says, I sanctified thee. In other words, what he says, Jeremiah, when I created you, I knew you. And I knew that you couldn't be around everybody. I knew that everybody couldn't handle you. And so therefore, I had to sanctify you. I had to set you apart. I had to make you different to get you to where I'm going. Sometimes it seems like everybody else can get away with things that you can't, simply because God sanctified you. Sometimes it seems like other people have an easier life and you don't, because God sanctified you. God separated you for a divine purpose. And so here it is that he tells Jeremiah, I knew thee before you was conceived. I sanctified you from birth because of the purpose that he had on Jeremiah's life. I knew thee, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee. He knew him, sanctified, ordained him. He purposed him for a specific reason. Anything that God puts in our life, he has a purpose for us. And he has ordained us. In other words, he has equipped us to handle what it is that he wants us to do. So when we go through life and we think about the ups and downs, the challenges that we have, remember that God knew you before you were conceived. Remember, he sanctified you for a divine purpose, and he ordained you, he equipped you for that purpose. I pray, God, that you have a wonderful Sunday. God bless you and God keep you is my prayer.